evening, nerderers, and welcome to Nerder with me, your host Leslie, just a history nerd who likes true crime. Tonight we're going to talk about John Haigh, Haigh. So I'm saying hi. Anyway, he was more commonly known as the acid bath murderer. He was convicted of killing 6 people, though he claimed to have killed 9. He would either batter them to death or strangle them, then dispose of their remains using sulfuric acid. Then he would forge their signatures to sell their possessions and grab lots of money. So let's get into it, shall we? Cue sweet new intro. Yeah, I don't have a sweet new intro. I'm kind of a technological brick, and I have no idea how to do a lot of this. I'm just a mom who likes history and true crime. So if anybody's got any suggestions or can tell me how I do that kind of thing, go ahead and leave a comment. Otherwise, let's get into it. John Haigh was born in Stamford, Lincolnshire. He was raised in the village of Outwood. His parents, John and Emily, they were members of this Protestant sect called, it's a very conservative Protestant sect, called the Plymouth Brethren. Through school, Haigh was very intelligent. He won a scholarship to Queen Elizabeth Grammar School in Wakefield, then went on to Wakefield Cathedral, where he became a choir boy. So this dude was literally a choir boy turned serial killer. You never know where they're going to come from. Hitler was a vegetarian painter. Just saying. After school, like after he finished school, not like extracurricular activities, he was apprenticed to a firm of motor engineers. After about a year, he left that job and took jobs in insurance and advertising. At 21, he was dismissed after being suspected of stealing from a cash box. After being fired, he moved up in the world and started forging car documents. In 1936, Haigh moves to London, and at this time he is working for a William McSwain. This is a very wealthy owner of amusement arcades. He is also the maintenance man for the amusement machines. During this time, he is also pretending to be a solicitor named William Cato Adamson. Now, he's got multiple offices: Chancery Lane, Chancery Lane, London, Guildford, Surrey, and Hastings, Sussex. So he sold fraudulent stock shares, purportedly from estates of his deceased clients, at well below market rates. His scam was uncovered because someone noticed he had misspelled Guildford. He had left out the D on his letterhead. He got a 4-year prison sentence for fraud and was released just after the start of the Second World War. He continued as a fraudster and was sentenced to several more terms of imprisonment. Now, instead of regretting his crimes, Haigh regretted that he left his victims alive to accuse him. He became intrigued by, the French murderer. I'm going to kill this because I don't speak French. Georges Alexandre Sarret, Sarret. I'm so sorry, guys. Who had disposed of bodies using sulfuric acid. So, Haigh experimented with field mice and found it took only 30 minutes for the body to dissolve. Good. Okay. Well, at least he's doing scientific method. All right. Haigh was freed from prison in 1943 and became an accountant with an engineering firm. Soon after, by chance, he encountered his former employer, William McSwain, in a Kensington pub. Swain goes on to introduce Haigh to his parents, Donald and Amy. And it turns out McSwain worked for his parents collecting rents on their London properties, and Haigh became envious of his lifestyle. So on 6th of September, 1944, McSwain disappears. Haigh later admitted that he had lured McSwain into the basement on Gloucester Road, hit him over the head with a lead pipe, and then put his body in a 40 imperial gallon, that's a 48 US gallon drum, sorry, I could not spit it out, with concentrated sulfuric acid. 2 days later, finding that McSwain's body had mostly dissolved, Hugh emptied the drum into a manhole. He told McSwain's parents that McSwain had gone into hiding in Scotland to avoid being called up for military service. Haigh then began living in McSwain's house and collecting rent for McSwain's parents. So he kills their son, convinces them he's gone into hiding, and starts working for them. This guy is like grade A creep. Anyway, they become curious as to why their son has not returned as the war was coming to an end. On July 2nd, 1945, he lured them to Gloucester Road by telling them that their son, McSwain, had come back for a surprise visit. There he killed them with blows to the head and disposed of them. He then goes on to steal their pension checks and sold the properties. No, he stole McSwain's pension checks. And then he sells all of McSwain's parents' properties for roughly £8,000, which is about £444,000 now. That's roundabout. That's rough, but it's close. He then moved into the Onslow Court Hotel in Kensington. Oh, and by the way, that number is roughly $592,000. And at that time, that's a lot of money. This time, it's a lot of money, at least for me. I don't know about you. Okay, Haigh was a gambler. By 1947, he's running out of this money. To solve his financial problems, he found another couple to kill, Archibald Henderson and his wife, Rose. Rose had been married to a German inventor named Rudolf Ehren. So after feigning interest in a house that they were selling, he was invited to the Hendersons' flat by Rose to play the piano for their housewarming party. While at the flat, Haigh stole Archibald Henderson's revolver, planning to use it in his next crime. Renting a small workshop at 2 Leopold Road, Crawley, West Sussex, he moved acid and drums there from his Gloucester Road place. He was known to have also stayed at Crawley's Hotel and the George on several occasions. Anyway, this guy had a whole bunch of places where he moved around to. So on February 12th, 1948, he drove Archibald Henderson to his workshop on the pretext of showing him an invention. When they arrived, Haigh shot Henderson in the head with the stolen revolver and lures Rose Henderson to the workshop, claiming her husband has suddenly fallen ill, and he shot her as well. After disposing of the Hendersons' bodies in oil drums filled with acid, he forged a letter with their signatures and sold all of their possessions for £8,000. Here we go again. $592,000, roughly. Except for the car and dog, which he kept. So Haigh's next and last victim was Olive Durand Deacon, age 69, a wealthy widow of solicitor John Durand Deacon and a fellow resident at the Onslow Court Hotel. Haigh by then was calling himself an engineer, and he heard Olive talk to her friends about her idea of artificial fingernails. He invited her down to the Leopold Road workshop on February 18th, 1949. Once they were inside, he shoots her in the back of the head with the revolver he had stolen from Archibald Henderson, stripped her of her valuables, including a Persian lamb coat, and put her into the acid bath. 2 days later, Durand Deacon's friend, Constance Lane, reports her missing. Detectives soon discovered Haigh's record of theft and fraud, and searching the workshop, they find his attaché case containing a dry cleaner's receipt for Olive Durand Deacon's coat, and also papers referring to the Hendersons and the McSwains. The workshop in Sussex rented by Haigh did not contain a floor drain, unlike the workshop he had when he rented at the Gloucester Road in London. Therefore, he disposed of the remains by pouring out the container on a rubble pile in the back of the property. Investigating the area revealed 28 pounds of human body fat, part of a human foot, human gallstones, and part of a denture, which was later identified by Olive Durand Deacon's dentist during the trial. Haigh asked Detective Inspector Albert Webb during questioning, "Tell me frankly, what are the chances of anybody being released from Broadmoor?" That was the high security psychiatric hospital. The inspector said he could not discuss that sort of thing, so Haigh replied, "Well, if I told you the truth, you wouldn't believe me. It sounds too fantastic to believe." And these are quotes. Haigh then confessed that he had killed Durand Deacon, the McSwains, and the Hendersons, as well as 3 other people: a young man called Max, a girl from the Eastbourne, and a woman from Hammersmith. These claims couldn't be substantiated, so that's just his word. And if you know anything about serial killers, etc., a lot of them claim to have killed more people than they have. They will admit to murders they didn't even do. So Haigh's trial was held at Louis Assizes, Assizes. You guys, I suck at this. So evidence from the trial is now actually at the Crime Museum in New Scotland Yard. Haigh pleaded insanity, claiming he had drunk the blood of his victims. He said he had dreams dominated by blood as a young boy. When he was involved in a car accident in March 1944, his dream returned to him. "I saw before me a forest of crucifixes which gradually turned into trees. At first there appeared to be dew or rain dripping from the branches, but as I approached I realized it was blood. The whole forest began to writhe and the trees, dark and erect, to ooze blood. A man went from each tree catching the blood, and when the cup was full he approached me and 'Drink,' he said, but I was unable to move," end quote. Attorney General Sir Hartley Shawcross, KC, later Lord Shawcross, led for the prosecution and urged the jury to reject Haigh's defense of insanity because he had acted with malice aforethought. Sir David Maxwell Fife, KC, defending, called many witnesses to attest to Haigh's mental state, including Henry Yellowlees, who claimed Haigh had a paranoid constitution, adding, quote, "The absolute callous, cheerful, bland, and almost friendly indifference of the accused to the crimes, which he freely admits having committed, is unique in my experience," end quote. Haigh had mistakenly believed that if the bodies of his victims could not be found, a murder conviction would not be possible. It took only minutes for the jury to find him guilty. Mr. Justice Humphreys sentenced him to death. On August 10th, 1949, Haigh was hanged by executioner Albert Pierrepoint.